So I just picked up a sheet of plywood from Home Depot, and I like to have them break it down there, but of course the saw was broken there, so I will be breaking it down first before I start the project today. Big pieces of plywood are always hard to break down, so I'm going to cut it just a little bit big so that I can fine tune it and get it to the right size in just a bit.
Having roller stands is invaluable. You'll see me move these around quite a bit to get this sheet of plywood cut. Working in a shop by myself, I always need an extra hand, and these provide it for me. I'm taking it over to the miter saw just to get the cuts made. I'm getting them to the exact size here, and then I'll take them over to the table saw to get the width right. I'm using the previous cut as a template for the next one. Here I am ripping the width to the final dimension. So the goal of this project is to make a box and then cut off the lid and attach it with hinges. And I'm using the dado blades to cut some grooves that the plywood will fit into. The last time I used this dado blade, I got the outer blades mixed up, facing in the wrong position, and I ended up cutting 1/8 of an inch larger than I meant to cut. So make sure to pay attention to the blades. The writing needs to be facing the outside. You can see the cuts on both sides there. And now I'm just marking the short sides of each board just to make sure that I don't cut the wrong sides. And I'm using a spacer just to line it up. And I'll be cutting the dado on the short side now. And here I am just using tape to hold together the sides while I cut the end caps for each side. And to get it to fit snugly, I'm just taking small little cuts and just sneaking up on it. And now I am applying glue into the dado just to hold this box together and tight. And here I am using whatever I can find just to brace that board and hold it up. Even the cat will do, whatever you have around. I like using a wet cloth before applying glue. I've heard it gives a stronger hold. My helper arrived just in time. attaching the top of the box, and it's nice to have that extra set of hands helping me line it up. And now I'm applying glue on the ends so I can attach the end cap. And that makes the box.
All right, so the glue up went well, and for the clamping, I just improvised a little bit. I used some regular clamps and some ratchet straps as well, just to wrap around, hold it in tight while the glue dries overnight.
All right, now that I have the box, let's cut the top off. Cutting the long ends of the box were pretty easy, pretty straightforward. But now getting into these short ends, the box started getting a little bit wobbly on me. So I used tape to try and hold the box together. Now you can see why one piece of tape gave, so luckily I used a piece of tape on the back. This was a bit difficult to do though. And there we have it, the box with the lid. Now I'm using clamps just to hold everything tight and in position while I apply the hinges to the back. I'm using a tape measure just to make sure that the hinges are spaced correctly on both sides. And I'm using a punch. That way the screw will go in the center. Now the screws actually did come through the other side, so I guess 1/2-inch screws and 1/2-inch plywood don't go together. And the latches, I'm doing the same process. I'm using the punch, put in where I want the screw to go so that it will go straight in the center. Now unfortunately these screws will not work with my impact driver, so I am doing all of these by hand. And here I want to make sure when putting on the bottom part of the latch that I'm pulling it tight enough to give it just a little bit of tension. Seems perfect. I'll attach the final screw. Let me quickly do the other side. And now moving on to the corner protectors. Once again, these will not work with my impact driver, so I am doing these also by hand. When I started this project, I wanted to give it a trunk look. So I was really looking for some hardware that kind of had that 1800s trunk look to it, and this was the hardware that I found. Whew! And the final step is to attach the handles on the sides. And I finally get to use my power tools. I'm applying a light coat of sanding with 220. This plywood is already pretty well finished, so this won't require too much work. I got a little excited here to attach my fancy hardware. So I think if I had this to do again, I would stain and sand before I attach the hardware. However, we'll work with it just the way it is. A quick coat of stain and a couple coats of poly, and I'm done. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future builds.